What's up, you guys? This is Leslie, the founder of the Collective Compass, and you are listening to the Connected Collective, sponsored by Little Mo Films, LLC, and the Collective Compass Movement. And today we have an incredible mom, activist, and just woman, goddess, energy, being in general. I just want to thank you so much for spending the time with us right now, because me and Jessica both, I'm not going to speak for her, but we have so much passion related to what you're doing. And it just gives us both life, genuinely. So thank you so much, General. And you do so much impressive work in this world. And I just want to thank you so much for being here. We have Marissa Barrera from California. Thank you for tapping in all the way from the West Coast. If you needed any reassurance on how far your movement is reaching, we're on the East Coast and we are so tapped into what you're doing. And it's just an honor to have you here to share your story with us. And for those of you who do not know Marissa, she has first started, I connected with her work first when she was into fitness. And I was at the point in my life where I was really trying to soak up all the motivation I could have for my own fitness journey. I just had my youngest daughter and I was trying to get back into all the things while building this huge company that I feel like is going to put so much positivity and light into the world. And it's such a heavy thing. So I could not believe when I was following you for fitness that I saw a horrible tragedy occur in your family. And I'll let you go deeper into your story in just a second, but just to let you guys know, I watched Marissa go from somebody that was super focused on family and fitness and health, be affected by such a major tragedy in such a powerful way, and to watch what you've done as you shifted from fitness to motivating people to stand up against police brutality and exposing all of the things that are going on in this country that need so much light, and just to be able to hold that heaviness and also raise children and also be such a leader in not only your family, but the community through doing this work. I can't wait to hear you talk about how you hold all this weight and keep doing what you're doing. So Jessica, why don't you talk about what her movement is, as far as how important it is to expose this information, and just let everybody know why it's so important what we're all doing.
So I'm from New York originally. So police brutality is there all the time. And I have family members that have had murder cases that they've gone to jail for. And it was brutality as well. I had a cousin that he was, at the time of a murder, he did not pull the trigger. But where the location was West Virginia. And he's half Black and half Puerto Rican. So when that was going on, he was trialed and everything was in West Virginia. And when I went to see him the first time that he had his court date, I did not recognize him because he had been beaten up by the guards. So yes, I was very inspired by your story. I think it's a great thing. I think that your voice is gonna go far. It's gonna go beyond the United States. This is just not just a part of the United States. We're talking about other countries, how they deal with police brutality, or, they probably don't even get to do what we're doing right now. They don't get that opportunity to speak up because it's so messed up. I don't want to cuss, but it's so fucked up. It's so beyond that we as humans are so selfish and just close their mind and close their eyes to it and look away, when deep down inside, they know they should be standing up, And half of these people is because they are afraid of their job. They're afraid of losing their family, and they don't speak up. So I feel like this will help those people that cannot speak for themselves, or give them the courage to do it. you know, or let them know that there's ways that we can go ahead and go further, you know, with the
Yeah, for sure.
problems in the world. It's just, I love it. I love it. I want to be a part of it. Whatever you need, I'm here, because it needs to be said. It needs to be said.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not California. It's just not. I mean, it goes beyond that.
Mm-hmm.
I know people that is young kids,
Yeah.
you know, and that hurts. You're like sitting there. I don't have children, but I have nieces and nephews. So that's, yes, I reflect on that. And when I see that child, I see my nephew's face.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see that person. I see who my family comes from. And if it would be my family.
Yes.
You know, I
Mm-hmm.
want to know how you did it. You know, how you separate it. Because being in that position, I can only imagine how your mind was it was off track, you know, and how you had to adjust to what you needed to do.
And the energy does not lie. I can feel your energy of just being so empowered and positive through all of this. So yeah, definitely. Yeah. Let us go ahead and get into your story a little bit and tell us how, like, from when, you know, what was it like before to what you're doing now, and how do you keep staying healthy through that, through the work that you do?
Yeah, thank you, ladies. You guys, that's probably the best like introduction I've done had for an interview or anything like this. And this is definitely different than anything I've interviewed or spoke about. So it's a cool change for me. Yeah. And honestly, so much happened. I didn't even realize that I kind of thought that we probably connected back then, but then so much has happened that I'm like, wait, it's been that long. And it's really cool for people that knew me before, and just to see, because it has been so drastic. It has been a drastic change. Like you said, I was all about that fitness life, that mother life. I was a single mom to my son. And at the time that my brother was murdered by police, like, I did not ever expect anything like this to happen, obviously. And I was about empowering people, being a positive person. But also the way I still speak about it is that, like, even through the hard shit, like, because I started fitness because of, I wasn't happy, you know? So that's why I started fitness, to better myself. And I always want to highlight that there's, you know, the dark, but then there's the light. So when that happened, with my brother's story, it's different than there's a lot of differences with killings by police, but there are a lot of things that are the same. One, the get down, when they kill our loved ones, goes with the cover up, the false narrative. They hide our loved ones' bodies from us. They lie to us. They stalk and harass us. And they really, like, just do a lot of scandalous stuff. So
I love how you explain the difference between the truth and the police narrative. The way you said that in your brother's interview, which is number 3 on YouTube. So everybody watching definitely needs to check that out, just to throw that in there. I love how the way you explain the issue is so easy to connect to and so powerful.
Yeah. And one thing, it's like, this shit is hard for me to even grasp and understand. And if I hadn't lived through it and seen it and lived it and faced these killers and people that they're really bad people, if I wouldn't have, I don't know if I would believe it 100%, you know, I don't know, but that's part of what I do, is trying to share. But I also have to understand that everybody comes from their own perspectives. Like, people might not know, but then we have people like Jessica, you've brushed with this stuff, you've lived with it as well, and my family as well. Like, I've had interactions with police before this, so I never liked the police, I never trusted them, but there came to a point when I was in my adult life and jobs I had, like, the police were around, so we had to work with them. Honestly, that was a couple years before my brother got killed through fitness. We did an event, police were involved, and
same ones in your area?
Yeah, Woodland PD. Those are my brothers. That's our hometown. So, and one of the officers who killed my brother was someone I sat at the table with. And at the time, it was 2 years prior, doing my fitness stuff, popping that and everything. And I was sitting there with these officers, and at my old high school, that was the event. And I just felt so uncomfortable. And I'm like, you know what? This is not my setting. Like, I couldn't tell at the time, you know, it's like not really understanding. I was still a little younger. I just knew that I did not feel okay with these people, even though there were smiles and, you know, the school respected them and people respect them. I just, yeah. And then, yeah. So with Michael's murder, so police killings, there's so much I could say. So I try to sum it up, you know, some are random encounters where something happens, whatever goes down. But then some are where this person was killed. They were targeted, they were assassinated, they were hit. There was a hit on them, whatever it was. And people that aren't familiar with this stuff, they might look at us like, this girl is tripping, she's crazy, she's watching
specifically my white audience, which is why we're having these conversations.
Yeah, and that's good. These conversations meet. One thing about my show is if anybody sits there and watches, I think you said, I think you said 37. Yeah, I should know that number. But if anybody actually watches, you're hearing the testimony from people, and most people, like, we can tell, is this person being genuine? Yeah, fuck yeah. You could tell that these people are sharing their stories and spilling their hearts out and sharing some really gruesome and brutal and ugly shit that we don't even want to talk about, you know?
If you can watch one of your episodes and you don't cry, then you really need to do some inner trauma work, I feel like, on whatever that looks like for you. And I mean that sincerely from the deepest part of my heart, because every episode I've watched of yours, it has brought me to absolute tears. And so, yeah, I mean, it's hard not to connect with the stories that you share.
I'll tell you, your episode moved me so much, I had to pause it twice. Because the anger.
Yeah.
It's the anger.
And I can just see this coming together and being this whole documentary. I mean, it's such powerful content coming straight from the families that if somebody watches this and cannot connect to it, then they have some deep inner bias or trauma or healing work of some kind that needs to happen.
Yeah. Because they're not touched. That's what I call it. I call it touch. People call it touch, like mental. No, I call it touch, that they're not touched with their human side. So
I like that.
In their life that they got closed out and they stay closed out. There's cement, a wall, some chains, some alarms. It goes beyond, and no one ever expresses it. So they think that they have been living a normal life, you know, that they're doing everything like another human being. Work, eat, shit, sleep. No, you have to expose it. You got to look around, because you're bound to see some fucking racism, police brutality, something really, animal cruelty. We can keep going. It needs to be, if it's going to go there, it's going to go there. We need to have a camera in every corner of the street, then oh well.
And the thing is that they do have cameras in every corner, but they're not for us, you know?
Right, they're for them. And didn't you guys have an issue with a lot of the some footage or evidence that, you know, talk about how maybe what it was like to experience the process of like going through what you were going through with your brother, but trying to manage the frustration of forcing the truth to come out, because that's always being hidden.
Yeah. So just, you know, back with Michael's story real quick, my brother, basically he pissed off some people that I still can't give no names. I don't know. But my brother, his case is one where he was targeted. He was harassed by one of the cops who, I say, finished him off, because there was 5 involved. His killing, he was assaulted violently, There's taser use. They used it excessively according to their own policies for 25 seconds. They didn't do the taser. They did where they hold it on them. And they did that to my brother for 25 seconds, to where the point that another officer had to tell that one to stop repeatedly because it was affecting him too. With my brother, he was unarmed. He was actually at his own apartment in his own house when he was assaulted in his home. We don't know who assaulted him, because the fight, or whatever we call it, the assault, the murder happened, it ended 3/4 of a mile from his home. So he was at home, and he was assaulted, unexpected. The evidence is there. It's all, actually the cops and officials, they incriminate all their evidence, and everything they have incriminates themselves. So the apartment, we can see that there's blood in my brother's apartment moments before he was killed down the street by police in this manner. The original narrative stated that he was basically a crazy man who was out naked and flashing people with scissors, a golf club, knives, and that he was in a trench coat, like this weird shit. And now that, I knew it really quick, but now that I know even more, it's just that false narrative. They're putting out this to make this person seem like they were a really bad person in the community, that they needed to die. So the community accepts it. And they're like, okay, thank you, police. So when my brother was killed, and when all these other people are killed by police, if people look in the articles, the comments, I would say 95% of people are thanking the police and cheering the police on for murdering our loved ones. And part of that has to do with the false narrative, but the media is a part of this, because the media isn't really reporting for the people. They're actually, the governments, they're telling what they want them to, what they want the people to believe and be programmed to believe, which is that the police were good and that they needed to murder this person. Well, my brother, he was a father. My brother was only 30 years old. He was a father. He had a baby on the way. The night before, I talked to my brother, and I was really tired. I was working a gym job at the time. I was managing that gym, and he was trying to see me the last couple of days. I'm like, we're super tired. I was working a lot at the moment. And the last text message is, I love you, good night. And then the next day, all of this happened. And if anybody knew my brother, he was a hands-on dad. He was a single mom. He was there for my son. My son had spent a couple of days at his house just 2 weeks prior. So with Michael, it was when the cops finally approached him, which the stories to why they got called, it's different things, but he had to leave his house. He told a witness on the way that 3 men jumped him in his house, and that the cops are after him also. So that witness and he asked that man for a glass of water as Michael was passing his house. And I don't know, I'm thinking Michael noticed he was calling the cops, or he didn't trust him, so he kept going. But the guy, he just went to call the cops. And so Michael ended up in a cul-de-sac. These officers approached him with guns immediately. And my brother, I have seen the videos. I have listened to the full audio. I have reviewed his photos and his autopsy and all of that. So I had to do that as a sister, and it's fucked up. And I'm not the only one that has to do that. There's a lot of mothers and people, but at the same time, in a way, it's fucked up. But I'm a little, we are fortunate that we have this stuff pertaining to my brother's murder, because some of these families, they don't know. And then there's some families out there that probably accepted the police narrative, which blamed the loved one and accused them basically of being responsible for their own murder. Well, my brother said, I can't breathe multiple times. And these 5 officers continued to assault him with the taser, with their physically, in every way, basically. The female officer was sitting on top. He was face down into the mud with his face in the mud, which had some water down at the bottom of the mud as well. There was 5 officers, 2 of which had heavy and far back military training. They knew better. And my brother, he was one man by himself. Who just got pushed up out of his apartment.
Didn't you say had his shirt off so that it was even more clear that he had no weapon on him?
Yeah. So before the cops approached him, because I got the surveillance even before the police, the following day. So first I see my brother as he's going through his apartment. He had a towel around him. He had a jacket. He had his shoes and socks on. He goes into a laundromat, and I have all of this. I have this evidence. He goes into a laundromat, puts his shorts on real quick. So that tells you, one, he's not a creep who was out there flashing people like these fools are trying to say. He actually had in his mind to grab his clothes real quick while he was having to bust out of his house. And so he puts his shorts on. He keeps looking over his back. I noticed I could see some of the cars. There's a car that keeps going by. It's a black car, but it's really grainy. So that was early on. I'm like, he's obviously someone's, he's looking out for someone. And so then he crosses the street. It's one of the busiest streets in Woodland. And in that area, it's houses. He goes through someone's backyard, and then he ends up in a cul-de-sac. That's when one of the officers approaches him. They approach him right away with at this point, he ends up having in the cul-de-sac. He ends up having a golf club in his hand when they first approach him, and he told him right away, like, I don't have anything. I'm not life-threatening. Like, why are you guys trying to kill me? And this is on the audio. He says, why are you guys trying to kill me? And they don't put they like end up getting closer, and he's the one backing up. And he says, you guys put your guns down. Like, I'm not life-threatening. And he ends up getting kind of like cornered off of the video. So I think that was strategically done by these military trained officers. And then that's when you hear, they try to say my brother charged an officer at first. They try to say all this stuff, but their story changed multiple times to where first they're like, he charged the officer with the golf club. Then the next story was like, he dropped the golf club because the officers got him to, and then they still tased him. I believe, because I've seen so many killings like my brother's where they're suffocated and they're tasered and they're piled on. I think they taser most of these people first, and then that makes people's body move. And then they're like, hey, don't resist. So that's what happened to Michael. They tried to say he ran, and it was a cul-de-sac. There was nowhere to run. They were on top of Michael, the female. She sat her whole body on him, on his backside. And he says, I can't breathe multiple times. People, when they're killed this way, they ask for water. I've heard that multiple times on my brother asked for water. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. And a whole struggle. You can only imagine asking for help and, all of that. So it's really horrible. It lasted moments long. My brother, he had been assaulted by one of the officers involved, which was the one he was at least 300-pound cop. And then they have all their gear. He had both of his knees in my brother's back, facing the way my brother was. My brother's face down. And this officer had assaulted him just weeks prior. And my brother had been speaking about that. So he's talking about Officer Wright. So for people listening, they might, that could be out there, but people could look up my brother's name, the narratives you'll find in the beginning. But the evidence is all there. Everything that I say, I don't speak anything that I don't know to be true. So in the beginning, I got really attacked in my community. People, accused me of being a cop hater. I got hated on and so much stuff. Like when people are killed by police, the families have to deal with a lot of hate and people that say things like they deserved it. Oh, just one more, all these crazy things. And I have had to hold my head high, not go find people at their homes.
Let's tell the truth. The truth is that most of the time it is about race. It's about who they are. Let's be real, they feel threatened by us. That's the problem.
And you know what? And I'll go a little further into that because my opinion is kind of different, but that is true. But there's now, like the way things are now, it's a whole different side. So some people, Michael, like if because he was speaking out, he would have, And the thing, my brother used to say, hey, because we're Mexican, my brother was the darker skin than me. And he would say, we don't fight the police. If police come on, putting my hands up, they'll shoot, so we know. And he's the one that taught me about stuff like that. And I want, everybody that's watching, because there's so many fights about this, even there's so much about this. I've had to it's crazy, but yes, targeting, that's what this policing system was built on. And there are a lot of racist cops. And then it also goes to the side that there are a lot of white people and have been murdered, but at the same time, they're not getting justice either. So that's why.
Yeah. And I've noticed on your playlist, there's actually multiple different ethnicities, and a woman that had special needs. Yeah. I mean, it's shocking. Well, to somebody that doesn't know how often, it's shocking.
I want to say race, but I'm saying it wrong. It's not just race. I'm talking about, people that live in the hood.
Yeah. Yeah. For white people, for just people that aren't meeting that. The poor. No, the class. It's basically classism.
That won't happen.
And it's cultural, because they associate, hip hop culture and Hispanic culture with the gang, affiliations and street violence. And come on, you're telling me that, and I mean, that could be a whole nother conversation, but that's why I feel like it's hard now, like you said, to really pin it on that one thing. Maybe you could have in the 60s or 70s, but it's just more complicated to maybe give accurate descriptions of all the different stereotypes. But we all know kind of the different majority of reasons why cops tend to pick on certain people. And then I think that it's hard on the cops that are not white to even be the right kind of police officer, because you already hear stories of all the pressure and all of the politics and bullshit that goes on with them. There are cops that will totally they'll be in the same position as a victim of police brutality, as far as having threats and having their family come out and attacked on the streets. And then think about it, you think they call you a cop hater. If a cop starts, I feel like that's almost in our American culture, one of the, it's just people aren't willing to do it because of what they have to sacrifice for that truth to come out. And that's what's so heartbreaking for me, is I'm like, y'all the ones that know. Y'all the ones that are in this. You took the oath. You put yourself in that position, and then what you're just gonna, but I can't imagine what it would take for you to have the strength to hold the space, reading news comments and people's feedback. For me, when it's people I don't even know, I can't even look at my local news on the comment thread. I don't even go there, because I'll have to sage myself and go exercise, and maybe even never mind. But I don't understand how are there certain practices that you feel like you have to do every single day to stay ahead of the curve? Do you has that changed since when you were just doing fitness? What have you had to do more of, and what do you do less of to kind of handle all this?
So it's kind of funny, because when you were doing the intro earlier and you're like, how do you keep it all together? And I'm like, I don't really keep it together. I try. I have to work every day, I'll be honest, when this first happened with my brother, I personally had to drink every day. I had to drink just to get some sleep. And it was just, those days are hazy. It's you don't know what's going on. At least I feel fortunate that I caught on, that I listened to what my brother was being vocal about to us before, that they were going to kill him. And I had it in me to at least not be, I was heartbroken, of course, but I had it in me to at least, no, fuck that. That's my brother. You guys just murdered my brother. I had to really, because one thing that they do is, we didn't get notified that my brother was in hospital or any incident. My mom, she worked at the same company, the hospital. And someone recognized my brother, and they called her at work, even though they could lose their job. They called her and said she needed to get there. Bullshit. Yeah. So, but she seen my brother dead, and she called his mother, and my mom called us. That's how we got there. That's how I was able to get on the ball of, hey, questioning. Well, when we got there, they blocked us from seeing my brother because they're trying to cover up his physical.
And then I remember you said you guys even had to, because of the politics behind the police department and how and I never thought too much, although it's kind of common sense when you say it, how connected the hospital is with the police department, with the funeral homes, because y'all actually had to move him. Just to make sure that it didn't get even worse as far as trying to prove what had happened to him.
Yeah. So, I mean, right away. So basically, okay, my brother's murdered. We don't know who we get to the hospital. We don't know by who. The nurse, the doctor, the hospital chaplain at different times grabbed my mom's hand, tried to take her in to see her son. Sheriffs were blocking it off. The ones who investigated the killers, they blocked my mom off. They said, we're going to clean up. They got to do some stuff. You guys see him later. Well, that was a lie. They just kept prolonging it. At that time,
I didn't know they could even legally do that. I don't know the laws when it comes to that, but I didn't know that they could just keep a mother, in a hospital from their child.
They're not supposed to, but they do it to all of us. They do a lot of illegal things, and all the families. I can't think of one. There isn't one family that I've had on who had a good experience at the hospital, where the hospital was also like trying to help. I know that they're being bullied by the cops. They're being bullied. They're being threatened. They've dealt with the cops before too. So who knows if they already know how these cops are, you know?
And I just say it like that for everyone watching, that it's really not, that really hasn't been affected by police brutality too much. It's sort of like, you have to understand that the laws are there, but they kind of don't matter if nobody's following them. And it's the holding somebody accountable. They don't get in trouble for breaking these kinds of laws. So they can kind of do whatever they want in those situations.
And a lot of people aren't aware of qualified immunity, the police officer's Bill of Rights. Qualified immunity, it doesn't just protect the police, it protects government officials from crimes that they commit, because they're on, it makes no sense. They, like my brother's killing is caught on audio fully. Even the officer's own testimonies show murder. So, and it doesn't matter. So my brother's case, and this is one thing I do want to share with people that don't know how this stuff works, is when someone gets killed by cops, a lot of people are like, okay, they believe the police narrative. That sticks with them. People that aren't going to really investigate and know about this stuff, it sticks with them. Okay, well, for my brother, unfortunately, he was a fucked up narrative. And they're like, oh, that was the naked man who got tasered because he had a golf club. That's what they put on my brother. And
you're like, hell motherfucking no.
I said, first of all, my brother don't even own a golf club. And my brother was not a creep like that. Like, he would beat up creeps like that, like throughout my life. Like, we don't do that weird shit, like I would know best. That's my brother. And they just get away with it. But qualified immunity protects all these cops. And then, back to the criminal and civil side. What I was going to say is, we don't have the ability to investigate these officers. Every officer involved killing does get investigated. But so Woodland PD killed Michael. Yolo County sheriffs investigated. Okay, well, when Yolo County sheriffs kill somebody, Woodland PD investigates that, vice versa. That's just how it works. That makes no sense. And how
many other businesses is that considered a conflict of interest? Like, even in the medical world, there is so much going on with a conflict of interest that you genuinely can't do business legally with somebody. Like, that to me seems like the ultimate example of it. But of course, because it's coming through our government, they know that when they set it up that way, that gives them permission to do whatever the fuck they want to do. So
yeah, that's just what it comes down to. The laws don't apply to them.
But this is where my stuff, it goes deeper. Like you said, it goes deeper. So we want to go ahead and we're going to expose them. These police, they get funded by someone. Who is that? You see where I'm coming from? They get funded to cover up. They get funded to be on medical leave for the, thing that they did, or things like that. It has to come from somewhere in order for it to stop.
Yeah.
If you cut the funds, you are pretty positive if you cut the funds and you send that funds into investigating or more ways to document why those police officers had to go to his house. Why?
And that's, you know what, with my brother's case, they omitted the whole point of that his house was broken into and that there was a crime scene at his house. So they make it seem like my brother was just running around outside naked. And so I had the video right away. In my mind, I knew, no, fuck you guys. They were lying in our face from the beginning. And I was like face to face with them. When I first showed up at my brother's apartment, I left the hospital, showed up at my brother's apartment because I heard cops were there and I knew they didn't kill him there. And I had to come face to face with these other cops who were trying to tell me they're going to arrest me. And I had the key to my brother's home. So I was trying to open it. And I said, man, fuck you guys. I just kept trying to get in. And they laughed at me because they're like, oh, well, we already deadbolted it in from the inside. Like that. And they were in there. So later when they finally got a warrant, when they finally did that stuff, one of the detectives that I first dealt with, I have the video too. He's talking like he's lying and stuttering and stuff. But at first he told me nobody went in there because I asked him who was in my brother's apartment. What is that mess in there? And he says, nobody went in there. I can guarantee you law enforcement did not go in there. So then I have the video, which I clipped, which is like a few hours later. And before we get to go in, after they supposedly had a warrant, he's like, well, I just want to tell you guys, I don't know if the fridge is usually in the hallway, but yeah. And he's like, I'm like, what the fuck? Obviously not, and he says, well,
like, was he saying it being a smartass? Like it's funny?
Yeah. Yeah. And then he says, well, I need to let you guys know that I did have to go in there earlier to salvage it. So me, like 5 hours or 6 hours earlier, and I recorded all this. They didn't know. I just knew right away some shit was already going down. So I said, you told me that you didn't go in there. I have this video super clear and like clip. I said, you told me you didn't go in there. Law enforcement didn't go into my brother's apartment. And he says, oh, well, I didn't say that. I said, yes, you did. And he said, no, well, I just, maybe that was a misstatement. I had to go in there to salvage it because water was on. And when I went inside, there was no water on or damage like he claimed. So it's just, another lie, conflicts of interest. Just these killings reek of conflicts of interest. They reek of that. They shouldn't even, the fact that they get by and kind of like, I was saying, I say to myself and to other people, they don't want these killings to stop because if they wanted to, if the government was against the police doing this, it would stop. There would be some kind of accountability, transparency, and cops would know, one, they can't kill, and cops wouldn't accept orders to go kill people because some of these are hits. There's just so many. And like you guys seen 37 interviews. Yeah.
Just your platform.
That's 37. Platform. And honestly, just with my contact and reach, it's at least
in the thousands,
maybe 1,000. Yeah, at least
I read a post that you made, and you said, I guess it was some number, and it was over 1,000, and I think it was just maybe in your area or in your state, and it was a short period of time, and I was like, if people just see the statistics in black and white in their own area, and then branch out, and then think about the whole country, and then we want to get, this is something that I know a lot of people have been affected by as well. But when you're looking at the numbers of, the COVID deaths, like think about those being unnecessary deaths because of police. And then maybe you can have the right perspective. You know what I'm saying?
I was doing as part of just some of the research, because I do a lot of research with this as well, and the statistics. We're working on a project right now, but in the last 20 years, it's well over 20,000 like people that have been killed. 30,000, actually, my bad. And these numbers are just,
and those are the only ones you know about.
That's exactly what I was going to say. So
I was going to say that.
Some of these people, there's not really nobody that's officially documenting the numbers. So people that volunteer, do it on their own time, are the ones that have been doing it. And since I've been around, it'll be 5 years in February. There was killedbypolice.net. They shut down because they don't have support and they can't keep it going by themselves. So nobody's really doing it. And I do want to hit on too, in the prisons and the jails, that's a whole different topic. Everything actually is very interconnected, but
oh my gosh,
we don't,
I know.
Yeah,
we do need to maybe have a whole nother discussion on that, to be honest, because that, I mean, it's like, you know, that is such a serious topic that affects so many communities. That is, again, I think the only reason it happens is just because of the way they try to paint the picture of the people that, you know, why people end up in jail, you know, and it's just a horrible, back to the police narrative, you know, there's the criminal narrative as well. So
it can also, I feel like, we don't know this, but I know that you know that there comes a time in the end of the month that police have to meet their quota. So they pull over whoever. Who knows? Who knows if there is a system in the police, you know, system that says, hey, if you arrest and prosecute 30 people, you get $2,000 per person. We don't know that, you know, and that's where I'm trying to say when it comes to the, you know, where they get this money, the communities.
Yes. You know what? And to touch on that real quick, here in LA, in California, they have, it's known and it's public, it's everything. They have the gangs within the departments. They have the sheriffs. They're very well known. And those are a lot of Hispanic, Mexican people. And some people that have been featured on my show, Anthony. So his family shared about their story, and he was killed because of an initiation from the Banditos sheriff's gang. This stuff is like, it sounds like far-fetched and it's crazy, but Anthony Vargas, he's on there in one of my episodes. I can't even think of the number, but they really are, I think, I mean, out here in California too, they were bending badges, and that was when they had to kill. So there are, they get perks for killing and doing certain things. It's really insane.
And as far as it coming from the community, I think the difference between a community that is not going to support police brutality publicly, I think New York has sort of been a good example of that, because I've seen earlier in the year where they passed some laws, and I don't know how this actually worked in reality, but it was the only thing that I've seen so far in the whole entire country. And I'm not as tapped in, you know, as you are to the progress. But for the only thing that I've seen is the one thing that they did in New York was to have human services. I can't remember the exact name. You know what I'm saying? Like social workers get sent to 911 calls when there's a mental health concern. And that to me is sort of the only good example that you can give people. When you say defund, people get so triggered by that. They're like, oh, we're not going to have any. Listen,
anarchy.
Move this money to this over here so that we can actually have some good solutions instead of death. So I don't know how that's working for them, but it was at least something that they started doing that was a step in the right direction. I feel like the only reason that even happened on that level was because New York City as a whole, and, you know, you got the celebrity pressuring, you know, and it's just, so they had the right formula to put that pressure on the NYPD or, you know, whoever was able to make that call. And I think that had they never had the public pressure on that level, they would have never taken the time to do anything differently. So I don't know what it's like in California, but I know in the South we're we're way behind, as always.
Exactly. That's why I'm here in South Carolina, and I see that. I see all these events in, the downtown area where they are supporting the police. They support the fire department, which is okay. I'm not saying defund. I'm just saying they need to tap in when the crime rate in that county goes up. They need to tap into it. They need to start investigating. Stuff like that matters, And I feel like we don't have that here in this area. I don't know if you remember, but right before New York started doing that, there was a guy that got murdered coming out of the club, by police on his bachelor party. He was getting married the next day. Yes. No gun, nothing. Came out of there just a little drunk. So, yeah.
So in all this that your family has been carrying together, I know in one of your posts you were talking about how you really had to hold like a leadership role in your family. And I know that a lot of us that feel like we're leaders in our family, we take a lot of that responsibility on ourselves because we know we have the strength to carry it. But I know you've had to have so much support from your family and hopefully from some sort of legal team. So like, what's it been like? What kind of support do you have? Do you have any, like, what do you look for that type of empowerment when you got to find that energy to keep doing what you're doing?
I'll start with the legal team. That's a negative. And that's just, I just leave it at
fucked up shame. I was worried you would say that.
Yeah, that's the civil lawyer. Well, we don't get, the civil lawyers that take on cases. A lot of them are just fucking Hollywood lawyers. That's what I call it. Like those mainstream lawyers. A lot of families get done wrong by their lawyers. They help cover up or make deals behind their backs or have appointments behind their backs or don't share all the evidence. My family is currently on our 4th set of lawyers. February will be 5 years. April will be our civil trial. So 5 years after my brother's murder, we get to sit in trial. And that doesn't, it's not criminal. April. Yeah, April of 2022. And it shouldn't take this long, but they have a lot of barriers for us. They want families to settle and they want families to give up. So settle, that means they offered my family $200,000. Well, first they said, we won't charge you guys our legal fees if you just leave it alone. But then they offered $200,000 without any changes, any policy changes with the department, without nothing. $200,000. We said no. And so on to that, my family, I have been leading. I mean, it's just a fact and proven that I'm the only one in my family that has continued to really be out there for my brother and pushing my parents. They're my parents. They need to grieve. They don't. Yeah,
for sure.
I don't. And
so much love to your mom and all your family, for real. I cannot imagine them trying to process that at all.
Yeah. It's really like, it's a weird place to be. Like I've been there, with my mom, but I don't just take on my mom's. I have all these other families. So I've had all these other mothers that I've sat there and talked to them about their children's deaths and helped them. And whether I'm looking at their stuff that they want and second opinion or just giving them advice. So with that, I would say it hasn't been people that from my life before this. It has been the other impacted families and the other people that I have met after. So the other families, when this happened, there were the families that reached out and took me under their wing. And I remember one lady, her husband was killed a similar way to my brother a couple of years prior. And she came to meet us when it first happened. And they just gave us, talk to us. And she's still a friend of mine. She currently stepped back because this movement can get very toxic and this work, it's draining and it's tough. So she has stepped back and I don't blame her, but so it's a family that nobody wants to be a part of. Some people call it justice families or impacted families. And I just, at this point, a lot of them are just my friends now. And a lot of the reason I started was, Yeah. Yeah. You know, and they show that love back. It's not just a one-sided thing where, and before, like even in my fitness days, it was often a one-sided thing, you know? And so it's a different type of, hey, Marissa, I'm out here trying to help people, trying to share my pains to help other people through theirs, because they both, that's essentially what they both are. And these families actually reciprocate that. So the families.
Well, we just want to send so much love to the families as well. And I want everybody watching this to go immediately to Marissa Barrera on YouTube and check out Voices of Strength, the playlist. I know you have so much going on, and I know we could keep talking about this forever. So I'm going to let you end with the big event that you have coming up that I'm going to register for as soon as I get off this call. And I know Jessica hit me up and said she can't wait. I love that you're doing this and that it's going to be an annual thing. So tell everybody how they can connect with what you've got going on and also to be a part of this event.
Yes. Thank you. You know, and this was a great timing. I just started planning our first, so Voice of Strength, I started it August 2020. We just hit the first year. It's been basically me running it while I had my baby and everything, but we are growing. We have helped a lot of families, met a lot more families. Also, I did want to throw in earlier, I have people from the jails and prisons that have contacted me because of Voices of Strength. So that's a whole nother thing. But
you have a Cash App? Or somewhere
I do.
That people can send donations to?
Yeah, actually, I have a Cash App, Voices of Strength, but we also have voicesofstrength.info, which is our website, and there's a link to donate and support, which there are different options. So yeah, we are holding our first annual event. This will be a virtual conference. It's a 2-day event. So we will have different panels of impacted families, other experts, and people who have been unfortunately introduced to this, like myself. We are hoping that a lot of times, and with my show, I know you guys probably seen it on YouTube, we also have it on Facebook, which is where most of our engagement with other impacted families are, and there are a lot of them. So we hope to not just have impacted families watching and joining, which it has been a lot and it is healing and helpful, but we want other people. So I'm happy to hear you ladies be joining. We want other people to come in and see. And a lot of times, just last thing I'll finish off with is a lot of times people hear about police brutality. They have just what they've been programmed to believe that it looks like. Well, a lot of people don't. If people listening, they're not going to think this is it, like me, that I'm a person that's talking about it, but we are everyday normal people, good people, like good people. These people I've featured on my shows are just great people. And at this point,
and you can feel their energy. You can feel their energy in the loving families. And it's just, you know, it's such powerful work. I also want to say that, you know, if you are somebody that has just started to absorb content on police brutality, I feel like this event would be excellent to register for, because y'all, you've got to hear the stories. You've got to hear the stories. You've got to hear the stories. If you have never heard stories from family members, you have not heard the stories for real. So, thanks again for tapping into the collective compass. And I just see this whole event as a big healing event, virtually for 2 days. It's going to be healing for anybody that, like I said, is just wanting to learn more about the violence that goes on in our country every day. And these are things that our children are going to have to grow up and maneuver through. And not only is it going to be healing for those people that are wanting to know more, I just see it as being such a healing event for the people that have been affected by it, that I just can't wait to be a part of it and just hear all of that healing work take place. The mantra of the entire Collective Compass movement is that the healing of the collective starts with the healing of the individual. So everybody needs to be willing to do their individual work. And whether you've been sheltered, whether you've been ignorant, whether you've been in denial, or whether you've been in a cave somewhere, cut off from all human contact, you need to tap into the work that Marissa is doing through the Voices of Strength, and you need to get registered for her event in November. I'm going to have all these links So you guys can get the link to the website to donate and to the event to get registered, and pass it along with everybody that you know, because it could save a life and it could help heal families. And I can't wait to see all the work that you've got coming up. And check her out under Exposing and Marissa Barrera on Instagram. And thanks again for spending the time sharing your story. And love you so much for joining, for real.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, both you ladies.
Live a happy, healthy, whole life, mind, body, and soul. Hey, you guys, it's Leslie, the founder of the Collective Compass, your resource for all your holistic health biohacks for the female, globally minded entrepreneur. I know there are some things that you're doing that are still keeping you in self-sabotage, and you may not even know it. And there may be people around you who are not on the same path that you're on, and they may be giving you some negative energy. Through the next series of videos related to all the ways you're trying to better yourself, will really break down some of those limiting beliefs that maybe you have inside your head or that you hear in your external environment. And I'm going to show you how to process those in a way where you can have a different perspective that's actually going to help you change that negative thought into something positive, and then it will no longer be a source of your self-sabotage or a negative trigger that you may encounter externally. What we teach you how to do at the Collective Compass when you rewire your perspective and practice habits that really support that type of lifestyle that's going to connect you to your inner guidance system, and it's going to allow you to live happy, healthy, whole.